Hello, faithful listeners. This is Ben Davis flying solo for the Ashoka special, episode 3 tonight. And Carthy can't make it, so it's just me. And I do have a guest here in the studio for those on YouTube following along. You may see my co-host C3PO. He's going to have some issues with some of the things I have to say about Ahsoka tonight, but we're going to take it down a notch here because this is late night here in school week back in North Carolina, Winston-Salem, Louisville area, Louisville Studios. So I'm going to be taking a sip out of my mug here. Nectar, yes, sweet homemade wine. So, Ahsoka, episode 3. What did I think? Spoiler free. First off, just from the whole episode, anything that had to do with Ahsoka and Sabine, this is what we wanted from episode 7. This is what we wanted Luke and Rey to look like, everybody. This is the Master Jedi to Padawan experience that we wanted, that we did not get, that was robbed of us by that awful man that made episode 7. Excuse me, episode 8. I am so sorry, I misspoke. Episode 7 was a good one. I enjoyed it. I'm talking about The Last Jedi. I misspoke there from the get. I'm talking about Rian Johnson. But the way that we start off, we see, not to spoil anything really, but we see some old school Jedi shit. And it's kind of cool, and I enjoyed it. And we see some kind of old school politics stuff in this one too, which I did not expect, because I thought we had enough old school politics junk out of Andor. Because Andor, for those of you who haven't watched, was nothing but a bunch of politics when it wasn't a bunch of spy stuff. So yeah, I didn't really enjoy that part of the episode. But we did get a callback to a couple of cool old school characters for the first time. I don't think we'd seen in episode 1 or 2. When they first said a name, I was like, they're not going to bring that person back, are they? But they didn't do that. Wow, C3PO, you're really not cutting in here when I'm taking a sip of drink. What are you doing? You're dropping the ball, man. You're dropping the ball. Wow, nothing. See, that's why my other thing on this episode was I really determined that I liked Ahsoka's robot companion, Huang. I'm probably misspeaking his name, but I really enjoy his character more than C3PO. Yeah, I do. He's funnier. He seems to really be much more competent. Everything C3PO did in the OT was like, he's like, oh, I did it, but I seem to have done it by mistake. You know, R2 was the competent one. C3PO was just kind of like around with like, oh, I put my leg back on. You know, but this guy, Yuang, is like, he's there, man. He's trading Jedi. He was doing it back in the day. Centuries. Intelligent character. Loving him being in this show. And I didn't see that coming, because he was not in those few episodes that of the Clone Wars continuation there at the end of the last 3 or 4 episodes where she was, captured Darth Maul and whatnot. So that was kind of cool. I like him being in it. That's a great get, and that is a spectacular throw in for what's his name? Filoni. I like him. He brought that back. That's good. So he had a big part in this episode. I think he had a bigger part, in my opinion, that made him seem more like a more important character in this episode than Sabine at times. Sabine kind of, I think she took a second to her role to him in this episode. Ahsoka's obviously, the star, and she's in the front, and she's in the driver's seat, so to say. And there's times in this episode, as we have said here on Going Commando with the 80s kids, she shows the best of Anakin and the best of Obi-Wan, and at times the worst of them both. And in this episode, there is a moment where you see her showing the worst of one and then the best of the other within 10 seconds. And you see her catching herself doing it. And it was poetic. And it was like, yes, that's what this show is about. And I'm glad that he caught it. But it sets up for a spectacular fourth episode, which it should be pretty awesome. The Inquisitor, this might be a minor spoiler, but he does speak. But you're not going to figure out who it is by this voice. That's your minor spoiler for the so-to-call spoiler-free episode. Come back on Tuesday, where we will give on Saturday, where we will give our spoiler episode, and Carthy will be along, and we will finally be able to bounce our ideas off of each other. And from there, hopefully, next week he'll be back. But after that, the next week, I will not be here. So for episode 4, we should be back. Episode 5, we won't. We'll see what goes from there. Week to week, we're trying to do what we can. It's hard to go into. It was a short episode, too. 30 minutes on the dot. Started at 9. Credits hit at 9:30. Beware of that. That is the shortest episode I can remember. Oh, and that also includes the recap, because I did not skip it. So that was included in that 30 minutes. Wow. That's short. Oh my gosh. Now that I think about it, that is mind-numbingly short. Whoa. But it was a riveting 30 minutes or so. More like 28 and a half minutes probably. But gosh, it was good. When it ended, I was like, wow, it's over? But because I didn't expect it to end so soon, because it didn't seem soon. It was just a good amount of time. That one definitely was quantity. That was a good quality over quantity episode. The other one's not so sure. But because the one before that, we were like, is the time's up? It doesn't, they could put some more in here, and it could go a little bit longer. But it is what it is. So I'm going to give this episode 30 minutes, deducts a few points. I gave the last two 8s. I'm going to go with the 7. The possibility of going up. I can't see myself going to an 8, though, after the end of the week, though, just because of the length of time. I mean, come on. That's how long the Rebels episodes basically were. And those were animated. This is live action, and you probably had an unlimited budget, and you couldn't come up with more dialogue than you had for a animated episode. Dude, come on. And you expect to be elevated, hopefully one day, to writing feature-length films for Star Wars movies? That's not getting on my script. That's not getting on my radar to be elevated. I don't know. That's a deduction in my point. So anyway, this has been Ben Davis of Going Commando with the 80s Kids. And until next time, may the Force be with you always.